I'm hitting 465, stressed out, I'm finna drive. I'm over it, sick and tired of bull.
Tell me about a time your child's told you a past life story.
I am going to venture to think that this is probably the most bizarre child past life story that's on this app. So between the ages of 2 and 4, my child told me some pretty ridiculous stuff. So crazy, in fact, that it caused my husband and I to comb through all of the books that we read, rewatch and screen all of the TV shows that he had access to. And I started keeping a note section in my phone of the things that he told me because I believed him. There's absolutely nothing in the books or in the TV shows that would have given him the knowledge at this age of what he told me. He told me he's from Saturn, like the planet. And he told me that he had kids, 2 of them, twins. He told me their names, which are not human names. I've never heard names like this before. And he also told me that he was one of the last people to leave the planet. Do you want to know more? Part 2. So in the beginning, where it very first started, I was sitting on the couch. My son was between the ages of 2.5 to 3 years old, and I was scrolling through Facebook. I vividly remember seeing this painting that a friend of mine had made, and it was just the most gorgeous ball of swirling oranges, yellows, and reds. My son was sitting next to it, and he saw it too, and he said, "Mommy, I've been there before." Now, there was no caption on the picture. I had no idea what it was, and I said, "What do you mean you've been there before?" And he said, "I've been there. That's Saturn." So confused, I asked my friend, "What is it that you painted?" And to my surprise, she told me that it in fact was her interpretation of what Saturn would look like if she was sitting on its moon. Now, I don't know if he is from Saturn, if he's from the moons, or if he is from the rings, but he at this point is very adamant that this is where he spent a lot of time. After seeing this picture, this painting, he brought up Saturn a lot. "Mommy, that's not how we did it on Saturn." I'm going to tell you about the big bill. All right, part 3. So at this point, he's a little bit older. He kind of talks about Saturn, but it's not really anything that causes me to write things down. That didn't start until he was about 3.5, 4 years old. He started telling me that there was a big building on Saturn that he worked in. And the best way that he could describe it at his age was that it was kind of like a place that had a lot of cars or rocket ships. And he said the building was incredibly tall and that his job was to help get people into these cars and get them off of the planet. At this point is when he told me that he had 3 kids. I went back in my notes, it's 3. The youngest were in diapers and they were twins. And he said that they all had to leave before he left. But he did say his kids came to Earth. And the most bizarre part about this is that my sons are 21 months apart. And I think my 2 sons were connected before they were born here on Earth. I think my sons were connected before they came to me. When I was 8 months pregnant and my son was 19 months old, I jokingly asked him, "What are we going to name this baby?" Because nothing fit. My husband and I couldn't agree. And he looks at me and he was holding a picture of my ultrasound and he said, "Isaiah." Now, my child is not in daycare, has never been in school, has never heard this name before, but was very adamant that my child be named Isaiah. And he is. It just fits. It works. But it makes me wonder, were they connected? Because he said that his family had to leave and that his kids came to Earth. Was my son one of the twins that he had? I have no idea. He said he had 3 kids. And he told me the twins' names were Akron, like Akron, Ohio, Akron, Akron, and Akril, Akril. I have looked up and tried to see if there's anything with those names that maybe he could have found or heard. Nothing. 0. So the last bit of information that he told me, which I think to be the most bizarre, is that he remembers living on Saturn with his parents also. He had a mom and a dad, and he said that they went extinct. He said that he also had brothers and sisters. He said he had 2 brothers and 1 sister, and he was very adamant that they went extinct. So I don't know, maybe he was a different race than what was living there before. I mean, he had to, in his adult life, try to usher people off of the planet. But I thought it was interesting that he also perhaps witnessed an extinction in his life on this planet. And I don't think he's making this up. I really do truly believe him. Anything is possible. And that's a lot of information for a kid between the ages of 2.5 to 4.5 for them to just make up. And for those asking, he's going to be 7 soon. so his time to remember is running out. But that's why I kept notes for him. I just needed to come on and say thank you. I am overwhelmed, but a very positive overwhelmed. I never expected that the videos that I posted, even the first video, I didn't have other parts made because I really did not expect the response that I got. But I am so grateful for each and every one of you for interacting, for following, for liking, commenting, tagging, for offering your knowledge to me, to offering your services to help us piece this puzzle together. You really truly have no idea how much it means to me. It has literally brought me to happy tears to read the comments of people offering, their take on the situation, things that I have never thought of before that make perfect sense. You have sparked such great conversation between me and my husband, and for that, I am eternally grateful. If you like these kinds of stories and you think that the universe is really connected,
Okay, so story time. I'm recently divorced. Last year, my ex had decided that he needed to go on a trip to get away because we were having a couple marital issues. So at first, I thought nothing of it. I'm super trusting and I was like, okay, whatever, go, come back with a clear head. It's whatever. But my friends were like, that's a little weird, Jenna. You need to check in on that. So I didn't really know where to start looking, so I started with our phone records, and whenever I was looking through those, I was finding a number that was popping up over and over and over that was 3 hours at a time conversations, 4 hours at a time, and during work hours, which he never even would do that for me. Keep in mind at this point, he's already in Philadelphia, so I don't know what else to do. I am frantically, going around trying to figure out what else I can check to feel secure. So, like for part 2. Part 2 of this saga. So mind you, I'm at home with our 2 kids. I'm taking care of them while he's away, and I am trying to hold it together. So I'm trying to figure out what my next step is. So I get on Google and I Google this phone number, and lo and behold, the area code is Philadelphia. I also have a PI as an uncle, and so I send this number to him to run. So for the sake of not putting it all out there, I find a girl named Nellie. So then I Facebook this Nellie with her last name, and it's a girl, which is weird. So I'm trying to get all my ducks in a row before I go accusing him of cheating on me. So my uncle sends me all this information. I get on his email because he left his computer and see that he booked a hotel room for 2 people. Like for part 3. Okay, part 3 of this saga because TikTok won't let me film long enough. So I get the courage to call him and ask him about this number. Well, he tells me it's a contractor from work because he is an engineer and I don't know, contractors, whatever. So I tell him I don't believe him, and he tells me I'm crazy, and we get off the phone after like a little bit of an argument, and he tells me he can't talk right now. So then I am stewing in my own head, and I'm texting him and texting and texting, and he's saying I'm crazy and that we'll talk when we get home, and that being there has cleared his head and we are going to work things out. And I'm just kind of like, I don't believe you. Eventually I get out of him that's an emotional affair and that's it, and that he's only in Philadelphia because she suggested that it's a great place to go, and he loves hockey and he wanted to go see the hockey team. So I'm gonna have to do a part 4 because of TikTok. Welcome to part 4. So I really don't believe him. I run it by my friends. They're kind of like iffy too. So I'm trying to decide what to do. So I tell him when he gets home, I don't want to see him. Go to your parents, give me some time, let me figure out, where my head's at, because I mean, it really, really rocked my world for a second. Long story short, I went through his phone. I'm not one to go through the phone, but he gave me reason to, obviously. So I found everything. I found pictures, I found messages. He had been having the affair for about 4 months. But I just want everyone to know, and the moral of the story is nobody deserves this. Nobody deserves to go through something like this. And it can wreak havoc on your personality and your confidence, but you are beautiful and you do deserve the best. And also trust your gut. It never steers you wrong.
Hey, I can't be the only one. Who else knows people that have killed other people?
Finally, something that I can actually relate to. So my grandma killed her mom, so she killed my great-grandma. It's kind of a crazy story, but back in the 90s, my grandma was over at her house giving her a bath. She was elderly, so my grandma was kind of in charge of taking care of her. During the bath, my grandma brought up the past about how she was abused as a child by one of her stepdads, and her mom then basically admitted to knowing about the abuse, but blamed her for it instead of the stepdad, which sent my grandma into a rage. She ended up drowning my great-grandma, and then after she was dead, instead of calling the police, she cut up her body into 8 different pieces, put them in garbage cans, filled the cans with cement, and then put these garbage cans in different storage units all throughout my hometown where I grew up. When the police were investigating, she lied and said my great-grandma was in Hawaii with this wealthy man she met, and even faked letters from her. It's pretty crazy.
What is the most concerning thing about your body that you haven't gotten fixed yet?
The last summer I started having issues hearing out of my right ear, so I go to the doctor like any normal person would, and the guy looks in my ear with that little flashlight nozzle thing, and he goes, And I go, what? And he says, you don't have an ear canal. Well, I did. Haven't missed any payments. Who took it? He sends me to the very convenient ear specialist around the corner, who then looks in my ear and goes, Jesus, that is not the first thing I want my doctor to say to me. You think you know where this is going and you think it's going to be a bug? Wrong. This man informs me that there is a small tooth-sized bone growing across my ear. So I'm sitting there trying to process this like, so should I go to the dentist? And he goes, oh no, it's only covering about 60% of your ear canal. So as long as it doesn't start growing more, then you don't need immediate surgery. Now I can't go underwater or else it gets trapped behind my ear tooth. Also to the person on Twitter who said I wasn't getting enough action, so my body had to start boning itself. That was me.
Tell me your craziest 1 in a million story. Something that happened to you that you just can't believe.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this really fast so I can fit it all in one part. 9 years ago, my boyfriend decides he's going to propose to me on the beach during sunset. We're walking, we're talking, we're having a great time, and then all of a sudden, my boyfriend decides that he's going to start walking back and forth in the same place that we've walked a few times. And he's like super frantic looking, like something is obviously really wrong. After a few minutes of this, he tells me, hey, I lost your ring. And the first thing I think is, if we don't find this ring, obviously the universe is trying to tell us that we're not meant to be together. We go to his parents' house, we get a metal detector, it's broken, it doesn't work. It's dark by this point, pitch black at the beach, and it's high tide. So where we were walking is now slowly being covered by the water. And I feel absolutely awful that this happened, and I know he does too. And he says, I just need a hug. And so I gave him a hug, and the light from my flashlight shined on something super shiny in the sand. And that's how I knew the universe wanted us together.
I had to call 911 last night. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking throughout while I share this little story time of what happened. She's just being a little extra protective right now, but you'll understand in a second. So if you don't know me, my name's Heather. I live in my bus, and we are camping in the middle of nowhere in Arizona. There's people close enough, kind of, to where they can hear and see me, so I feel pretty safe. But last night, after the sun had set and it was still like a little light, some creepy ass van pulled up to my bus. And my bus is like 100 yards off the road, so they kind of had to like pull up to me, and I was like, what the heck, are they going to park in front to like camp over there? And they pulled up, and they're like a distance away, and it's dark, so I couldn't see the license plate. And I was just really creeped out, and Phineas, my dog, who's like a black border collie, was going psycho. Okay, wait, come back for part 2. I'm about to post it. Hi, part 2 of why I had to call 911 last night. So basically, my dog is going like bitch fit crazy. She's very protective of me, and the van like pulled up far enough away, but close enough away to where they could talk to me, but I couldn't like get a visual on who they were or even see the license plate. And this lady gets out of the driver's seat. There's someone in the passenger seat, and my dog is like going psycho. And this lady's like, hey, do you want to buy I think she said awning, I don't know what she said, and I just was like, no. Phineas, heel, like trying to tell Phineas my like words so she doesn't like actually attack them yet if needed. And then I proceed to talk to this man that is in my bus, and I'm like, hey Chris, I used my dad's name. I was like, hey Chris, like blah 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 blah, and just keep pretending like I'm talking until they left. And it took them a little bit, and then they finally left. Okay, so these people finally pull away, and the thing that creeped me out the most is they came at dark to ask me to buy something. They were in a sketchy ass old van. It was a female who got out, but that didn't, like, female or male, it would have freaked me out. And they didn't go to the people that are further down the way. They kind of drove past them, and then they came back towards my bus at night to, like, exit the area, because I'm on, like, acres and acres of free land out here. And it just really freaked me out, especially being alone, and my dog was going so crazy. So I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? So I called the police department in town first, and then they were like, call 911. So basically I just called the police department to give them my coordinates and stuff like that. And so if I called later, I wouldn't have to figure that all out. But then later that night at 11:30, my dog is going psycho again in the bus. I made sure to not get out, but she was going crazy. And her bark is so scary that I was like, I'm fine. Nothing happened, but yeah, it was really creepy.